Welcome to Bay Area Psychology. Tonight's topic, fostering resilience in children, was brought to my attention when I attended a workshop offered by the Santa Clara County Prevention Services. I wanted to know why some children rise from a brutal, traumatic childhood and go on to lead satisfying lives, while others are broken and in despair at an early age. Now, some of this trauma can be perceived. Let's take a look at an example.
My life's over.
Tonight, we will look at individual and family components that could make a difference between survival and loss. With us tonight to address these issues is Sheila Levin from the Santa Clara County Prevention Division. Welcome, Sheila. I'm glad you could make it this evening.
Thank you.
Now, we just saw a clip of a child who had the traumatic experience of feeling humiliated in front of a bunch of other little boys, and it brought to my mind the idea about perception. You know, we talk about surviving childhood. I know I've had some clients that will talk about their childhood as being really very, very difficult, and yet their siblings will say absolutely nothing went on, and vice versa. So are you familiar with this idea of perception?
Mostly I'm familiar with the idea of what we're calling now resiliency, which is why is it that some children would be resilient in the face of adversity as opposed to those children that are not capable or that in the way that you're saying it, that don't perceive something as adverse or negative.
Okay. So really, when part of this research that you did for the county had to do with identifying children that I guess you would call them at risk for adversity? Or?
I think that that's been the whole shift in perception, that the research that's really forefront in prevention right now is more concerned with investigating what are the aspects of people's lives that make them resilient, what protects them from at risk, or as opposed to, we used to look at what people are at risk for certain problems. Originally, research was done on at-risk populations of people, or people that had already developed problems, and then out of that there were common denominators in terms of what put these people at risk for these specific problems. That research being retrospective and helpful, but now there's some new research that's really telling us about the people that are in these adverse situations that survive, that come out successful.
So actually doing
adults.
Research with people whose lives are working.
That's right.
As opposed to people who aren't working. And I think that's a very significant shift.
It is.
I know even in my training in psychology, you know, we of course primarily focused on people that, you know, their difficulties, you know, diagnosis and that sort of thing. So this could be a real important trend.
Yeah, I really think it is, particularly in looking at the possibilities. I think a lot of the research has found that most children will rebound. Most children, that's the majority. And when you look at the diseases, or you look at particularly with alcohol and drugs, you know, you're looking at 10% of the population of people, which is a large percentage, and nobody means to deny that there's an issue, but the reality is that that leaves us with 90%. And I think that it's been very interesting to me to understand some of those common elements of people's lives that again and again are shown to show promise in protecting or buffering children from adversity.
Actually, I have prepared some graphics from your material, and I thought we could review them together and you could explain them to us.
Wonderful.
Let's take a look at our first graphic. Profile of the resilient child. social competence, and that seems to be responsiveness, flexibility, empathy and caring, communication skills, sense of humor. That seems to be, I think, vital for most of us, the idea to be able to not maybe take ourselves so very seriously.
Right, right. Social competency is, is one of the characteristics that researchers are finding as a part of a resilient person, meaning they have the skills to participate socially. And those skills can certainly be learned. They are something that you can learn social skills, and social competency really seen as an important factor when in adverse situations, being able to cope.
So just because maybe my parents might be unavailable due to alcohol or drugs, or maybe we've had some domestic violence, or it doesn't mean that the children with intervention can't learn the same things they would have learned if their parents had been available.
Absolutely, and even, I must say, even though there may not be intervention required, I think that's another way to look at it, is that if there's an opportunity for children to develop social competence, even though their parents may not be available, a grandmother may be a non-biological parent, a teacher, somebody that, that could teach these children skills, may in and of itself be an intervention, but may also not require a therapeutic intervention.
A formal intervention.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at another one of our characteristics. I know we only took a look at one. Problem-solving skills, critical and creative thinking, resourcefulness, initiative, imagination. So this sounds like a child's ability to take a look at a situation and evaluate options.
That's right, right. And to make decisions based on those options, to be able to think critically, to be able to make healthy decisions, decisions that are good for them. Again, whether or not they're taught these skills at home, or whether or not they're natural, or how they develop these skills are various different ways.
Well, in part of my experience clinically is I've noticed that this problem-solving skill is incredibly important. I work with the adult versions, adults who maybe were raised in alcoholic homes, alcoholic or addicted themselves. And one of the most difficult challenges they face when they get clean and sober is, okay, now in sobriety, when I'm faced with a challenge, what are the steps to problem solving? I mean, I'm so used to problem solving by maybe just vanishing, disappearing was a way I solved it, or going to jail, or finding someone to take the responsibility for me. So I think you make a good point in that. That's a skill set. That's not an innate characteristic. I'm not born knowing how to solve problems. So therefore, I can probably learn them, and that's by watching somebody do their own life successfully, or even there's certain very good books out that would teach how to actually go through those steps.
And in even programs in schools, even preschools, and that's why we're so much advocates, of course, of prevention, because if you can develop these skills early on enough in life, the chances are promising that they will serve to buffer or to help one in later life from preventing future problems.
Well, and also the idea that I have options. If I can problem solve, what that might mean is that, yes, maybe my peers are in this kind of situation, my friends are in this kind of situation, but that I might be able to think of a way around this, that I don't see myself as totally victimized and helpless.
Right, exactly. And this is a long process. It's probably not something that happens that you learn in a 6-week course called problem solving. It's really a lifelong process. Young children need to learn how to solve problems. And different problems than we would be trying to solve.
Yeah, and have a sense of your own power. I mean, part of that is that, even if I have the skills, if I don't have internal permission or a sense of empowerment of myself, I won't do it.
Exactly.
So, I mean, we've run into that with treatment with children and adults, which is kind of that institutionalized thinking. I'm so used to having people tell me what to do. At the Women's Recovery Center, I'm the supervisor for Women and Children House on the Hill. We have 5-year-olds and under, and some of the children we come in are very self-directed and want to have challenges, and other children wait very passively. And even if they know what to do, they wait for the teacher to do it. Or they'll even ask another person, will you do that for me? Because they don't feel like they can do it themselves. So it is very early.
It does start early.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, it doesn't mean to say, none of this means to say that because one possesses all of these characteristics that we're talking about, that that is going to make them resilient. And, you know,
Right.
there's no perfect person.
Right.
And there's
Well.
no order to which, you know, a child may learn,
Right.
learn those skills.
But,
But-
what we're doing at this point, I think, is just hedging our bets. Okay?
Exactly.
Let's take a look at our next set of
Sure.
graphics. Autonomy, self-esteem, self-efficacy, internal locus of control, mastery, as well as a sense of purpose and future, sense of interest and goal directedness, achievement motivation, persistence, hopefulness, even spirituality. Those two seem very closely allied to me, that the idea that I'd have to have some degree of self-esteem to have a sense, enough power to be able to look forward to a future. I mean, is that your experience?
I'm not sure. When I look at them, I do look at, I mean, I think that they all blend. I think that
Okay.
at some point they all do cross. When I look at them separately, though, and I see the autonomy, I think what we're, and locus of control, what we're really referring to is one's ability to separate themselves from terrible things that may or may not be happening around them. For example, if a child is growing up in an alcoholic family, to be able to make decisions on themselves, to have that internal locus of control, sense of autonomy, of separateness. With the other one, sense of future, that could be applied, you know, I mean, I don't see them as mutually exclusive.
Okay.
On the other hand, I think that they're a little bit separate in the sense that a belief in something. A lot of that comes from studies that they've done on Holocaust survivors, where people that were able to successfully survive without being you know, killed by the Nazis,
Right.
were shown to have a great belief in the future, a sense of purpose, a sense of faith, a sense of, so that is seen as a real critical factor.
That kind of like, despite the chaos around me, I'm not flawed, even if the situation's flawed, and that other sense that at some point it's going to be different.
Right.
You know, it's not forever,
Right,
the situation.
right. That there's a reason that I must go on.
Okay, so you're talking about a sense of meaning.
Yeah, sense of, yeah.
Okay. And where do children learn that? How do they learn that there's something bigger than themselves, or a sense of purpose?
Well, I think first of all it starts in the family. And I think that when we talk about some of the protective factors, the environments that have been shown to produce these resilient characteristics, a lot of that is found in like high expectations of a child.
Okay.
When the family expects a future for the child,
Right,
when the
okay.
family is, you know, and when all of that the child will respond in that way, and then themselves have that same sense for themselves.
So assuming that, of course, we're going to be able to create a reality for ourselves that works for us. Let's take a break. Stay tuned. When we return, we'll learn more about resilient children, and we'll take a look at an actual trauma.